Rightio, welcome back to the Bush Telegraph of the World. I'm Jay and I'm here with Mick and we're talking about banks and the situation that's going on in Cyprus and in the rest of Europe. So Mick, there's been all these bailouts through Europe, and do you think that in the future that these bailouts are going to be based around the Cyprian model that's been used?
Well, I believe so. As we saw earlier while we are doing a little bit of research, globalresearch.ca is basically a website that is looking into this matter. And basically what we found there was that Canada, I know it's not a part of Europe, but this is a good example. Canada has adopted a risk management project for their banks to use deposits as a, would you call it a bail-in or a bailout?
That's the bail-in.
That's the bail-in.
The bail-in.
So use deposits of the people. I think they've put a 100,000 Canadian dollars limit on it as well. But we can see the Cypriot model is being used in Canada, and I believe you mentioned there's something going on in New Zealand.
New Zealand as well, yeah. They've had that model in for some years.
It's possible they'll use this model for every other country. I mean, think about it. It's an ingenious model to rip everyone off.
Well, it is. It's essentially stealing wealth from the middle class. Really, it's a greater separation of rich and poor. And
that's right. That's right.
You know, when you have nothing and you expect bailouts, and I mean, when you print money, and it's loaned into existence, as Mick said earlier, if we assembled all of our money in the world to pay off all of our debts, we still couldn't pay off our debts. You know, well, here you go. There's a little poem I wrote recently. Understand, bro, the banking cartels don't want you to know that they're the ones really running the show, making money from nothing and lending it so, using debt as a weapon to mess with your flow. I can see you laughing over there, Mick. Yes, well, that is the truth. They do use debt as a weapon to mess with your flow. This is exactly what we're seeing with whole countries, and not just enslaving whole countries, but stealing from citizens' bank accounts. And if that happens over there, then we can expect to see that happen here in the future.
Yes.
It's a little bit worrying. I mean, there's a good site you can have a look up. Anyone can have a look up, and it's just type in your country where you live. So here in Australia, we type in Australia and then type in debt clock. So type in Australian debt clock, and you'll actually see the debt clocking up, and we are not in the black, we are in the red, to the tune of about 4.5 trillion, which is relatively low when we look at the debt of other nations around the world. US 16.8, Japan nearly 11.7. $10 billion for Cyprus is nothing. It's nothing, but it's a perfect guinea pig, because it's such a small nation. There is a lot of banking that goes on there, a lot of deposits from Russia and other countries, of course.
I believe it's a Russian tax haven.
Well, it pretty much is. So there's maybe it's a target because there's not a lot of Western investment in the country, and maybe they're just thinking that they can just skim a whole bunch of money off the Russians.
Yeah.
Easy money.
I believe Putin called them the Bolsheviks.
Yeah, well, Putin
in a recent interview.
Well, that's right as well. And Putin actually pleaded with the Cyprian president, Anastasiades, to not go and see the European central banks and the IMF, but to actually get a loan from Russia. And Russia's already loaned them $2.5 billion, which they're in the middle of renegotiating. But right there, you've got, no, don't go to the European central banks. They're crooks. We'll loan you some more money. Give us some access to your oil and gas fields, which you've recently found. which will come online in about 2015 to 16, and that's when money will start flowing into Cyprus. And the Russians obviously wanted to have a chunk of that. And yeah, unfortunately, Nikos Anastasiades went to Brussels and signed in this bail-in on behalf of his country to the big banksters. So more debt, more austerity measures against the people, and more haircuts. Tears.
Nobody likes a haircut.
No, not if you're a hippie anyway.
Yeah, what if it goes wrong?
Well,
You have to wear it for a long time.
you do, you do. Well, bailouts are more of a welfare for the rich and a band-aid on the economy, which I mean, if you got a big boil, you know, it needs to have it needs to, you know, get treated and add a bit of a squeeze. Otherwise, it keeps on building.
You're taking the show in wrong direction.
Oh look, it's a metaphor, Mick. It's a metaphor. But that's what they're doing with these bailouts. They're just putting a band-aid over the sore. They're not fixing it. The sore's festering and it's getting worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Now all I can see is boils and sores.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take it on to a slightly relevant topic. Gold and precious metals and Bitcoin.
Okay. You want to start?
Sure.
What are you going to tell us about Bitcoin, Mick?
Bitcoin. Well, the way Bitcoin works, I believe Bitcoin was established in 2008. I could be very wrong there. But I should probably have the right facts. So Bitcoin was established. It's a digital currency that was basically made by one anonymous person. Now, the way this currency works is you mine for Bitcoins, and the way you mine is you use a graphics processing unit, which is a graphics card within your computer, to generate hashtags. And hashtags basically, depending on the number of hashtags you generate, you get Bitcoins. We won't get into the technicalities of it too much, but basically Bitcoin was at a rate of, I think it was $8 for quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then just recently, I believe I heard on Russia Today that one of the reasons why it went up was because of Cyprus.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone in Cyprus, or most people in Cyprus, investing in digital currencies. So it went up to 280.
287, I think.
American dollars, and I think it's dropped to 100 now.
Yeah, so that's about $1 billion off the market that was shaved. It's about $1.5 billion market at the moment, and it's lost about $1 billion. And the reason why it can move so fast, Mick, do you want to explain about the algorithms?
Yeah, sure. People that invest in Bitcoins have set up algorithms that automatically, once the price of the Bitcoin drops below a certain point, these algorithms, because it's a 24-hour market, unlike the share market, these algorithms basically sell off the Bitcoins, and you have basically an avalanche of people selling Bitcoins at one particular time, which would greatly devalue the Bitcoin,
Crash the market.
Crash the Bitcoin market like we've seen recently. Well, it hasn't really crashed, but it went from 280 to $100, which is a big change. And mind you, it didn't stay at 280 for very long. I think it was a couple of days.
It come down pretty quick. So it's a digital currency that's 24 hours a day. So
can be traded 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day. So that makes a big difference in the volatility of it, because it can move, when you're asleep. Instead of the money markets, essentially, say here in Australia, they'll open the stock market, and then they'll close it at the end of the day, and then the American market will open, and then it'll close and comes back to us. So I mean, because our markets are only open for set hours, weekdays, business hours, essentially, it stops the currency from making massive tumbles overnight and things like that, essentially.
Yeah, that's right. I believe with the American market, if a share of a certain um, product or whatever you'd like to call it, commodity, drops below a certain price, the market gets shut down and
they freeze it.
yeah, it's frozen and it has a cooling off period up until the next morning so that people can't sell and obviously crush it and make it even worse. But it's a bit different with the Bitcoin because it's a 24-hour thing. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it'll be the most fluctuant, thing that I mean, Mike Adams, I believe, said that it's going to be a revolutionary thing, but it's also going to be a very, very fragile thing. So it's going to go up and down, up and down, up and down. But one more thing about the Bitcoin is the great use of Bitcoin is it's the anonymous use, being able to sort of actually purchase products without being traced to a bank account.
And it cuts out the middleman, which is essentially the banks, the gangsters, and it's just traded digitally between people, and they don't like that. Banks don't like that at all.
Well, yeah, there's no interest to be made there, right? Yeah.
So look, we're just going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with you shortly. Stay tuned.